This short webinar is just an overview of publication, how to publish, some do's and don'ts, and some guidelines. In due course, the second one will be produced, providing more detailed information, but this is a good start. In higher education is defined as degree and above, so it's undergraduate and postgraduate. Postgraduate is master's by research, master's by thesis and PhD, and it's the realm of the university. The commonly heard expression is publish or perish, and it's a measure of the calibre and standing of an educational institution. It's been argued that, and there's some strong evidence for that, this has been at the expense of the quality of the teaching that occurs in these establishments, and there's certainly much supporting evidence to that effect. Regardless, it's an iron rule that an institution is substantially measured by the quality of its research output, as the expression is publish or perish. So the output of research is new knowledge, and that's what it is, new knowledge that may be of interest to others around the world. And obviously, to make it available around the world, you've got to publish your work. Should your work be published, then it's gone through a quality control checks, and therefore been deemed of an appropriate quality, worthy of dissemination to the global community, which is obviously the way to go. Now, there are two principal ways you can publish your work: by conference papers and by journal papers. And let's have a look at the compare and contrast. Conferences. That's the conferences where you will submit your proposed manuscript for review to the conference organizers, who will then review it. And then if it's accepted, you'll be invited to present your paper at a conference. Most conferences are actually face-to-face, where you've got to travel and you've got an audience. Some years ago, I was involved in online conferencing, which I would have thought would have taken off by now, but it doesn't appear to have occurred. So with a conference then, the advantages are that if you want to present your paper at that conference in Berlin in January, then the conference organizers will give you a schedule. Your manuscript must be submitted by. It will be reviewed by. You must make the necessary changes by. Failure to meet those criteria, and you will not be going to that conference. So it's very good because it gives you a hard deadline. As you can see, by contrast with the journal, well, when do you submit it to the journal? It's not quite right yet. I need to make these changes. Oh, is this about right? And you've got what's called slippage. And I found certainly a major advantage of conferences, this hard deadline. It forces you to complete your work by a specific date. Another advantage is you interact with your peers. So you present your paper at the conference and you'll hear other papers in allied fields. And therefore you get to interact with people. People, after you presented your paper, will come and talk to you. You can see papers that are of interest to you. You can chat with them in real time. You exchange business card, and then who knows where it will lead. So it's a highly engaging, highly informative, extremely interactive, and very useful medium by which to publish. Clearly, though, the downside is the time involved, because, like it or not, if you look at it in post-Western Australia, it's the most isolated city in the world, I believe, and it's a long distance to any other major city. Even if that isn't the case for you, you still got the disadvantages of time, because you've got to travel to the conference location, the cost of accommodation, the cost of travel, and things like that. So it's not to be dismissed, but think carefully about the advantages and the disadvantages. By contrast with journals, immediately we can see There's no overhead of time, you don't have to travel anywhere, there's no cost to travel, there's no accommodation, but you've got slippage. And there is precious little opportunity to interact with your peers. One measure of quality is citation. Citation is where you publish something and another person cites your work. And that is a measure, one of the many measures of quality. A quality journal will also ask you to put your name and your contact details at the head of the journal paper, and therefore then that will give readers the opportunity to contact you. But this document is primarily concerned with journals. Three principal types of journals here: traditional, open access, and what's called hybrid. We're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. Hybrid is where traditional journals offer open access to some of their journals. But in broad terms, open access, free to read, but the author will pay a publication fee. That is the author and or the institution that the author works for. Traditionally, for traditional journals, there is a fee to read, but the author doesn't pay any publication fee. That fee to read, you could, as an individual or working in an institution, request the full paper of a journal, of a manuscript you're interested in, and you'll have to pay for it. Alternatively, in universities, the budget in the library is hundreds and hundreds of thousands because they subscribe to numerous journals all around the world, and therefore the fee is paid for by the university, and the author doesn't pay a fee to read it. So let's have a look at journal types and quality. Let's have a look at traditional. In a traditional journal, this method of publication is by means of recognized journals, often associated with professional bodies such as ACM, IEEE, IEEE, etc. And they tend to be the more prestigious ones, and we've got the reputation to uphold. But it should be noticed there are a wide range of journals. And as we said, in this type of journal, there's no author fee, and the readers pay fee either per journal or subscription by the host institution. High quality journals, which is something one should aspire to, typically require substantial evidence-based results. So if you were to submit something involving half a dozen students over 1 week, it's highly unlikely it would be accepted. Highly unlikely. You've got to have substantial evidence-based results that you then support the claims by your paper. It should also be noted that review periods of traditional journals can be extensive. It's certainly not weeks in my experience. It's typically months. And with one journal, it's a high impact journal, I waited a year for the reviews to come through. 1 year. And that is not untypical. That is not untypical. And when you get the results of the review, it can either be accept, pending minor changes, accept pending major changes, and of course, rejection. You cannot resubmit it. All journals, regardless of the type, require you to sign off that you've submitted this work to that journal only. You cannot submit the same manuscript to multiple journals. And this is because the person who owns the journal or institution, they have got reviewers who are doing the work to review it, and they don't want for you to withdraw it after it's been reviewed. The downside with quality journals is the review period, but the high side to that is quality journals provide extensive feedback. And sometimes in some journals, the ones I've submitted to and I've accepted, you put 5 or 6 pages in, which is about par for the course, reasonable. And sometimes you can get feedback longer than the submitted the journal you submitted, the manuscript you submitted. And that's because they have a board, and they will send it to at least 3 other reviewers, if not more, and therefore they're required to give extensive feedback. So I have been a reviewer for the IEEE, and the editor of the journal, he assigns to a manuscript that's been received, certainly I said 3 or more, and you give them guidelines as to what you're to look for. You, as a reviewer, you give them an indication of when it must be completed. You give them guidelines about what you should look for. The IEEE were exemplars of best practice in my experience when it came to the quality of the management of the process of reviewing for the journal. Now, you can call this the high side or the low side of high quality journals, but they have high rejection rates. High rejection rates. Sometimes this is published, sometimes they don't. In one journal I looked at, they actually wrote, when you submit a journal, a manuscript to this journal, it is almost certain it will be rejected. They're clearly flagging to you here, it's the highest quality. And if you're not at that standard, don't even try. So the advantage of high rejection rates is that it is an endorsement of quality. They've got set criterion that you must meet, and failure to meet those criterion, such as literature searches of extensiveness, is your literature search topical, or are they all out of date? Have you got sufficient data? Have you managed the data? Have you done the statistical analysis? Have you done any conclusions, etc.? All the guidelines provided by the journal. Now, because we've got, as said here, a wide range of journals, this would prove to be problematic within Australia. We're Australian-centric here at EIT, but international, of course. And in order to address this problem, the Australian government commissioned something called Excellence in Research Australia. Because what they did was to say they would provide funding to universities proportional to the number of journals produced by the university. And that immediately caused problems because it was quantity versus quality. They did not provide distinguishing factors between high and low quality. So there's a proliferation of really low impact journals. I said quantity, not quality. So to address this problem, they came up with a ranking system. And the ranking system was A star, being the highest, A, B, or C. And obviously I've said A star being the highest. It's a guide. It's not watertight, but it's a reasonable indicator in my experience. So this ERA journal ranking spreadsheet is available from EIT. It's read-only. It's no longer used, I have to say, it's no longer used, but that doesn't mean to say it isn't useful per se. And I use it frequently now. So with my thesis students, we pick the topic they're interested in, we'll enter it, we'll do a search, and then we'll come up with a journal. So for example, here we can see here, I've typed in electronic engineering, and we've got the Australian Journal of Electronic Engineering, and you can see it's class C. That can be compared to something like, can you see here, A star, and then we've got A, and we've got B, and we've got C. So very, very useful. And it also gives you the ISSN number for referencing purposes, and to assist, it also gives you a description of the type of thing, subjects that they publish in. And you can clearly see here that the Australian Journal of Electrical and Electronic Engineering is category C, the lowest. You've got your ISSN, and then you've got the discipline fields that they will support. So a very, very useful document in my experience. By contrast, let's look at open access. This is something that's reached greater proliferation in the past five or so years. And really it's a bit like evolution, and it's rapidly evolving. And the policies and practices and policing of it are also evolving. What you've got to be cognizant of is that open access journals, there is no doubt some of them will not exist in 1, 2, or 5 years' time. It is my professional opinion, I'm happy to be proven wrong, that they will not exist in a number of years' time. Should that be the case, what happens to your published articles if that journal, online, open access, no longer exists? Hopefully they would do the right thing. But will they do the right thing? I cannot say. Just a word of warning. Open access journals provide figures in support of quality, such as impact factor. But what you've got is different journals use different metrics as a measurement of quality. It's therefore problematic to rank them. Also, these figures are subject to change, and how reputable are the figures? Can they be relied upon? Worst case scenario, the journal that you see, and you type in a subject and it says, here's a journal. It could be one person working from their own room, and it's a source of income for you, and it could be a rort. It might not be, but I'm just telling you the worst case scenario. So you've got to enter this field with a degree of caution, And so in order to assist you, what we've done with EIT is we're producing a spreadsheet here. Well, we've put open access journals here, just listed 12 of them so far. Here's the subjects: STEM, science, technology, engineering, all disciplines, and mathematics. If it's not obvious, then you can see the title: Business Management Information, Machines Review. And what we've got here is full paper, blind peer review. If it's not full paper blind peer review, avoid it. And as you can see here, this is the publication fee paid for by the author, and it varies from $300 US down to 0. But you can see this one with 0 here. From the website, you can't determine the number of issues per year. You don't know the impact factor, you don't know the rejection rate, and there's no indication is it indexed. That is, I would be really concerned about that one. Also, the fee is subject to change. And here, issues per year: 12, 12, 6, 3, 12, 12, 12, 12. And then we've got impact factors. Impact factors, there are many different types of them. There are many different types. And here, they just quote, this journal quotes that impact factor, 1.76 watt, 0.24 watt. And here, these journals, they come up with SJIF, IJI, RSET. In order to address that problem, there was an organization that came up with a uniform ranking system in order to be able to compare and contrast things. And it was called OMICS Publishing Group. But unfortunately, again, according to Wikipedia, it called the practices predatory, and there's question marks over the veracity of that work. Some of them quote the rejection rate. You can see here, look at this one, 70% rejection rate, which again, it is an indicator, but should not be used as the only indicator. Indexed, if it's not indexed, forget it. Indexed means then with a search engine, it'll pick it up. It'll pick it up. So to assist potential authors, firstly, if you're wondering which journal, then you've got the quality criterion here. Okay, contact EIT and say, show us a spreadsheet. Okay, look through that. If it's not, then you need to discuss it with EIT. For more traditional, this spreadsheet's available, so you can type it in and you can get hold of it. So assuming then you've got a journal that you think has got a reasonable reputation, the key is read some of the papers from the given journal, and if you find them interesting and readable, you're on the right track. A good example of this is I used to teach cyber security, industrial network security, and things like that. And there was one journal that I did a search and it came up and it spoke about cyber security, and I thought, that's great. And I opened it up and it was cryptography. I couldn't even read the abstracts. So if you can't even read the abstracts, you're on the wrong track. Next, journals typically provide style guidelines and even templates along with criterion that they look for. Use the template because then you just type into the template and it does the formatting for you, the font size, the referencing standards, all of that, it's all done for you. Some journals review by abstract only. That should be avoided. That is no measure whatsoever of quality. So in here, even if I've written full paper blind peer review, I know for a fact some of these accept papers by reviewing the abstract only. The abstract's 200 words or so. So as I said, the ERA journal ranking spreadsheet is available from EIT. EIT will be producing a list of open access journals. If you choose an alternative open access journal, it's strongly recommended you discuss it with EIT to ensure quality control checks and balances are conformed to, and that's in your best interest. And with that, I'll conclude this short webinar.